Hey, would you like to come along while I pick some tarragon and teach you how to dry it and preserve it on a DIY herb rack that I made myself? Let's get started. Okay, this is my tarragon garden. This is French tarragon. This bed is pretty much emptied out. We're taking all of our herbs out of here and moving them in the back to where my tiny house is. So I'm going to snip some of the rest of these down, and then I'm going to actually separate this. There's a couple of clusters of tarragon in there, French tarragon, and I'm going to move them to the back. So I figured before I move them, which I'll do a video on so you can see, I'm going to go ahead and harvest these and hang them on my new DIY harvest herb rack that we made for my tiny house kitchen. So let me get the camera resituated so you can actually watch what I'm doing. And I'm going to go ahead and snip all these down and take them down the tiny house and show you how we hang them up and preserve them for the winter. Okay, this is a little closer view. Wanted to show you what I'm doing here. Had some ants in my basket, but basically I'm just going to set them in this basket. I use a sharp pair of scissors. It's just me today, so I couldn't really hold the camera and do this, so I'm going to try to do this as best I can for you. All I'm doing is, because I am harvesting these completely, I'm snipping long branches off. I'll clean them and do stuff later, but right now I'm just taking one at a time and snipping off the branches that I want to keep, putting them into this basket, and then I'll go through and show you what I do with them. These are really thick, and I normally don't wait this long, but I didn't have a choice, so they're kind of unruly here. They've kind of gotten forgotten about. You know our story. We were gone for quite a while and came back to quite a mess on the property here. We're still kind of playing catch up, so I'm going to go ahead and cut as many of these as I can, get these ready, and then I'll come back and I'll show you exactly what I've done and what we're going to do with them. This is my basket, and this is what is left. Now, I do have some, as you can see here, that are new and coming up. These are just completely unruly and gone crazy. Tarragon is a spiral plant, so it kind of takes over if you let it, which is okay because I love it. But this is what's left. I'm going to go ahead and I'll take out all these sprigs like this here, and I'll transplant them down back by my tiny house. I got a few more I can cut off of here, but basically that's my mess that I have now, and I'll show you just a bit when we get down the tiny house what I'm going to do with this. Hi, welcome back. We're back in the tiny house kitchen. I wanted to show you, this is my DIY hanging herb rack that you see behind me. Yeah, it's a little extreme. But I got this log outside, and I love the way it looks. I think it's cool looking. So it's now my herb rack. I have been doing tarragon, like I told you, and I actually made a video for you guys yesterday doing this and found out that my iPhone wasn't recording the audio very clear. I had it set to stereo, and I guess that caused a problem. So anyhow, today I have all my tarragon in this basket. I have a lot of it, so there's a lot for me to do, and I'm not going to take you through the whole process on the video because it would be like an hour long. So I'm just going to show you the bits and pieces and the stuff that you need to know. What I do want to show you is that there are different ways that you can dry this herb. One is to use a dehydrator, which I do not own. I borrow my friends, and I don't have it right now. And dried herbs are good, but they're not as fresh, and they don't taste as great, especially tarragon, as when it's fresh. But it is a great way, if you have electricity, to use a dehydrator to dry your herbs and preserve them. Other ways that you can do it is by using trays from a dehydrator. I actually picked these up at Goodwill. They're pretty decent sized trays, and apparently they all came in a stack. I got a stack of like 5 of them, and I think I paid $2.50. But what I do is I'll lay the herbs out across this, and I'll just set them out on my porch or in my kitchen in a dry spot, and just let them air dry. Right now we are still just finishing up. We just remodeled my tiny house for me to come down here and start doing these videos on. So you cannot see that side of the kitchen, which is probably good because it's piled with boxes and things that need put away. So right now these are not an option for me because I don't have the room to set them out. But if you do, this is a great way to dry your herbs. On the other hand, what I'm going to do, and for today's video, all that you need to do what I do is a very sharp pair of scissors. And yes, all you hairdressers, I'm sorry, but they're the sharpest scissors I could find. They cut through anything. And then I cut hair and it resharpens them. So it's kind of like a double bonus. The other thing I use is cotton string. This is the string that you can order on Amazon, and I'll put a link down below to make wicks with, which is actually an upcoming video I'm doing. But this is just like a heavy duty cotton string. And basically, if you can see behind me, what I do is I tie a bunch up, I hang it from my branch, and I let it hang. You can reuse this over and over again. And then when I'm done, if I don't have any herbs that I'm drying, I just take all the strings and I throw them into wax and I make wicks for my candles. So, you know, reusing. The other thing I have is 2 little glass bowls. They don't have to be glass bowls. They're just what I have. And the reason for that is sometimes when I'm done hanging these branches, you know, you've got some leaves that you have to pull off so that you can gather the stems up. And I take those leaves, as you see here, and I put them into this bowl. And I mean, this is just overnight since yesterday. It dries them out. But I put these in a little Ziploc bag and I crush them up and use these first because they're there. And I don't waste any of the plant. The other bowl that I use is for, this is the tops. As you can see, yesterday's harvest had all these little flowers on the top that I had to cut off because I don't save those. You know, send me a little note in the comments if you know, can you use the flowers from Tarragon? Because I haven't really seen anything on that. I don't use the stems or the flowers normally, but I'd like to know if you can. Anyway, I put these in here, and you might think I'm crazy, but Tarragon smells so good, kind of like anise. So if you like the smell, you can add this with your potpourri. I put it on my desk, and then when the smell goes away, I just toss it. So, and the other thing that you need is just something to work on and a place to hang your herbs. So let me get this set up and show you what we're going to do, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so unfortunately I'm standing in the light, and I'm sorry about the big shadow, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what's going on here. So all I'm doing is taking this string and just cutting it in lengths that I know if I wrap around my herb branches and then I can tie it to my thing, it's still going to hang down far enough for me to allow air to go between my herb bunches so that they dry evenly. So I basically just cut 3 long pieces of string, and I'm just going to kind of set them here to go. I can set this aside. So now that I have my string, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of these at a time. Some of these are really straggly, obviously. The little bits and pieces that I do not need, I'll throw into this. If I pull any stems from the leaves, then I'll throw them in this bowl, and the stem will go back in here. So this is kind of just a small branch, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay it there ready to go. And what I'll do is I'll continue working through my conglomerate of a mess. This one, for example, it doesn't have a lot in the center, and that's okay. I'll just simply pull off all the yucky stuff that I don't want, and I'll pull the leaves off of this end that I'll save, throw them in that bowl. And that just gives me a little stem to add to the other one. I'll just stick them together and set them down. Now, I will tell you that I did not do this just for this video, and I will when I pause the video to show what I'm doing. But, you know, my tarragon has been in there quite a while, and it's got a lot of dirt on it. Now, we grow all naturally here, and there's really nothing on here that's going to hurt us, but I don't really want dirt or bug eggs or any chance of anything getting in my food. I could just, you know, brush these off, these leaves, but as you see with this much of it, that would take forever. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash these And I'm going to go ahead and shake them dry as much as possible, maybe put them between a paper towel, and then I'll go ahead and start separating them out. But right now, I think to make it easier, basically what I'm going to do, a lot of my branches have more than one stem coming from it, and that's okay. That does not hurt anything. You can cut those off, that's fine. But basically, all I'm going to do right now is just pick through them all, get them all in piles, and then I'm going to go ahead and wash them and rinse them, get rid of all the uglies and all the stuff that I don't want. And then I'm going to come back and show you exactly how I tie them up and how I gather them. Thought I'd bring you back real quick before I finish washing all of these to show you an example of a situation that you run into with this if you're not quite sure. Most of this is common sense, but I just wanted to share it with you. So some branches, because I've waited so long, like I said, do have flowers on the top. All I do with that is snip off right where the flowers are and throw that into the bowl. And then down here, and like I said, this branch is really filthy, but this was a good example. If you can see, there are little sprigs that have come off this branch. Now, I can simply remove the leaves from down to that point and just hang it like that and leave those on there. Or you could snip these off and use these fresh if you're going to do them immediately. Now, I don't know if you've seen in any of my past videos or my posts, but we do a lot of outdoor cooking, almost all outdoor cooking lately. And because of that, I do a lot of live or a lot of fresh herbs. However, the things that I like tarragon on are not something that we are cooking tonight. So I am going to go ahead and hang this with these still attached. But I wanted to share that with you, just so you know, you don't have to cut those off. You can hang them. It don't matter if pieces are missing. You're going to get plenty out of this regardless. So, all right. So as you can see, I got a huge mess here. I am still working through all of my stems here, but as soon as I get a bigger pile, I'll come back and then I'll share with you what I'm doing once again. Okay, so I have washed one bunch here, and I'd like to show you how I gather these, and then of course once I finish the rest of them. Basically, these are all of my branches that I have cleaned, washed, and gotten together. I just cut the ends off. You don't have to do that. I'm OCD, I guess. And all I do is take the end of my rope and I just tie a bow because it is easy to untie. So there's my little bow. I make sure that that's really tight. I find it's not really tight, so I gotta do it again. Maybe we'll do a knot. And then a bow. I don't know why I do the bow. But I do. I guess because it's pretty. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Anyway, I do the knot. And then I find a spot on my log here. Pull it up to the length that I went. And that's it. And that's what it looks like. I'll just tie a little knot up here. And there's my hanging branch. I'll let those dry just like I'm letting these. This was a bigger branch. These I just kind of threw them together real quick. But I'm going to finish the rest of this. Here's how much I have left. So let me finish this and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I'm back. I am just cleaning up a little bit. I'm going to show you the final project here. All right, I'll take this camera off here. So these are the racks, or the herb bundles that I've done, the two from yesterday. And I've got one out there. Now, while I finish tying up this other herb bundle, I just wanted to talk about a few things. First of all, tarragon, in case you don't know, tarragon is a perennial, actually, herb. It will come back every year. However, when I tell you that, I live in Central Florida, and so every spring this stuff pops up, and unless we get like super cold weather, I have never lost a bunch of perennial or a bunch of tarragon yet. So in the fall, you're really supposed to trim it back, down low, cover it with mulch, and just to protect it from the freeze. And come spring, as soon as the ground warms up, it should sprout again. I don't recommend you, now I trim mine about every, I'd say every 3 to 4 years. I transplant mine, split them apart, do what I need to do. If they're too bushy, straggly, maybe they're in a bad spot, they're not growing well, or you just want to add a whole nother herb garden somewhere, every 3 to 4 years, it's a good idea to divide them. They are kind of hard to divide, and this is because the plant has a really, really tight root system on it, and it's hard to separate them without damaging those roots. However, you can do so. It's not a problem, and usually you have enough tarragon to last you, so if you do lose a few plants, it's okay. The one thing that you need to know about tarragon, though, is that you cannot start it from seed, not French tarragon. Russian tarragon, you can, but it is a different texture, and it doesn't really taste the same as French tarragon does. So French tarragon, you have to start from either cuttings, or you need to get a starter plant from somewhere else. Now, I bought mine at Home Depot. I bought mine at a local Ace Hardware store. You could pretty much get French tarragon anywhere. It's really good on chicken, pork, pasta. It's really good on just about anything. I do have a post, a pretty decent post with a lot of information in it about French tarragon specifically. It's got pictures. You'll see the DIY rack. I've got all of that in that post, and there's links to where you can get some tarragon plants and how to take care of them, as well as how to harvest them, how to dry them, the options, how to grow them, how to maintenance them. All of that information is in there, and there's even a free printable in there. It's a 6x9. It is an herb card, and basically you can print this card out and take it outside with you and use it to guide you on how to plant or harvest or preserve your tarragon seeds. So I'm going to give you one last look at the whole rack, and then I'd love to stay with you, but I have a whole thing of black-eyed peas that I need to can. So until next video, thanks for sharing. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you soon. Here it is. This is the finished herb rack in my kitchen with all my tarragon hanging from it. And yes, I do have some in the window. And that's okay, because mine dries pretty fast. I'm in Central Florida. It's pretty dry this time of year, so the sun doesn't really come in that window. It's just light, so it won't hurt it. But there's my finished herb rack hanging from the ceiling with extra holes in the ceiling where we didn't know it wouldn't hold without anchors, but we learned. So there you go. Thanks for watching.